share a quick story with you all. When I grew up here in Winston-Salem, and I grew up in East Winston. Anyone from Winston-Salem in the room? All right, awesome. I grew up on a little street called Liberty Street over in East Winston. And anyone that has been down Liberty Street would know that is not a place for any child to grow up. I see some heads nodding down here at the front. They've been down Liberty Street. It's not a place for anyone to grow up. I grew up with prostitutes that would sell their bodies less than 100 feet from my doorstep. My next door neighbor was a crack dealer. And I remember vividly the day I was playing outside with my friends and the undercover police and sheriffs came in and raided his house. I grew up next door to a junkyard and there would be a dog barking all night long. But we have to keep the windows open because we didn't have any air. We lived in what they call a shotgun house. They call it a shotgun house because if you stand at the front door and fire a shotgun, the bullet would go all the way through and go out the back door. No halls in the house, just every room connected. We didn't have any heat in the house, so my grandfather would wake up at 5 a.m. every single morning and heat my bath water on the stove so that I could have a hot bath. Of course, we were infested with roaches, infested with mice and everything else that you could imagine. We didn't have much. And I also remember very vividly my mother had me when she was 17 years old. And to this day, as I stand here before each and every one of you in all the successes that I've achieved, till this day, I have never met my father. I have seen my father, but I saw my father one time when they let him out of jail by mistake, and they printed his photo in the Winston-Salem Journal because they were trying to apprehend him. And I share all that with you all because I have every excuse and every reason why I should not be standing here on this podium. I have every reason and every excuse why I should be in the cemetery, or I should be in the hospital, or I should be outside breaking in all you kind folks' cars while you in here trying to graduate. I have every reason and excuse why I should be doing that. But my grandfather used to tell me, he used to say, Algenon, I want you to look around. Because everything you see right now is temporary. Everything you see is temporary. And he used to lean down to me, and we would sit on the porch outside our house, and we used to play this game, and we would always play this game called Which Direction is the Police Car Coming From? Because we could hear the police car sirens in the backdrop, and I would say, oh, they're coming from that way, Granddaddy. That's the game we used to play. And I remember he would lean down to me and he'd say, Algenon, I may not make it out of here, but you will. You will. See, my grandfather started to teach me about the power of purpose. And that if you had something to hold on to, even if it was inside, no one could take it from you. That you could achieve great heights with the power of purpose. And although I would step outside every single day and I would see all this chaos going on outside my house, I used the power of imagination to create a vision of where I wanted to be. You know, I would go a little further and share some additional things my grandfather used to tell me. He'd say, Algenon, it's so very important that you embrace change. You see, change is inevitable and it's unavoidable. Now, if you would have told me a few years ago that every major investment bank in our country would blow up and be gone, I wouldn't have believed you. If you told me that we would be engaged in 2 wars at the same time, I wouldn't have believed you. If you told me that we would go through the greatest economic crisis since the Depression, I wouldn't have believed you. But are you going to resist change or are you going to embrace it? And that's the real key. Each and every one of you soon-to-be graduates are coming out into a world that is very chaotic and very volatile. But are you going to embrace change, or are you going to resist it? Because if you resist it, you'll get swept away by it. I want to share another story with you all. I attended NC State here in Raleigh, North Carolina. And I majored in computer engineering. And I recall speaking to Omar in the back. I think he's a computer networking guy, so I was doing a little bit of that too when I came out. But I majored in computer engineering. Now, when I went to school, when I went to college, it was 1997. That's when I graduated, 97. And it was during the 90s. Now, how many remember the 90s? All the technology booming in the 90s. And I thought to myself, I said, oh my God, I'm going to be the next Bill Gates. Or Michael Dell. I'm going to be one of the Steve Jobs. I'm going to be one of those guys. I'm going to go learn how to work on these computers, and then I'm going to come out and make me a whole bunch of money. Now see, within that thought process, I was not concerned about the contribution that I could make to my community. I was not concerned about the contribution that I could make to other people's lives. I was concerned about all the money that I could possibly make. Now, when I came out of college, it was 2001. And some of the faculty behind me will probably recognize what was going on in 2001, but that was not the time to be in the computer industry. You see, all these experts had told all these companies that on January 1st, 2000, that your computers were going to blow up, or either they were going to turn on you and start eating up the office, or they was going to do something. So what did all these companies and big corporations do? They ran out and they hired all these special guys to come in and work on their computers. They went out and bought all new hardware, and by the time little old me made it out of college, there was no more room in the budget for technology. So here I spent the last 4 years of my life, and I had this grand idea that I was the next Michael Dell or Bill Gates, and now I had trouble finding a job. Now, I had a choice at that point in time. I had a bunch of friends that went into financial services, and they said, Algenon, come over here and work with us. You can do this. And I said, man, you crazy. I don't spend the last 4 years of my life learning computers. How can I go over there and work at Smith Barney or Merrill Lynch or Morgan Stanley? How can I do that? And they said, we'll teach you. We'll teach you. And I remember going back home to my grandfather, and him and I shared a glass of lemonade, and I said to my grandfather, I've got an opportunity, Granddaddy, what should I do? And he said, Algenon, as long as you're working with money, you'll always have money. That was a joke on his behalf. So I ended up making that transition, and I went into financial services. And I went to work at Smith Barney. I subsequently joined UBS Payne Weber and had a great time doing it. One of the greatest decisions I ever made in my life. I embraced change. I didn't resist it. I embraced it. And even while I was at UBS Payne Weber, I had an opportunity to meet some very wealthy clients. And these clients would go out into the marketplace, and they were trading loans and trading all these kind of assets. And they were involved in real estate, doing all these great things. And one day I was eating lunch with these guys at Noble's Grill, and the guy reached over to me and he says, Algenon, we want to start our own trading group, and we want you to be the asset manager. And I looked back across that table and I said, you must be crazy. I just got into this. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm still learning this. You want me to come over and do that? How am I going to do that? I didn't go to school for that. I don't know how to do that. Don't worry about it. We'll teach you. So I would make another decision in 2003 to leave and go join these gentlemen and launch Wharton Gladden. And since then, I've got to correct Larry on one point. We've not done $125 million in multifamily and commercial real estate loans. We've done $250 million. And we've done over $1 billion in whole loan trades over the last 7 years. Again, one of the greatest decisions I could have made. I embrace change.